Wrath of Man. Drew, take it away.
Yes. Guy Ritchie's latest is a crime thriller based on a French film called Le Convoyeur, or Cash Truck. Set in Los Angeles and starring Jason Statham, Holt McCallany, Scott Eastwood, Eddie Marsan, Trevor of EastEnders. Look, I know the actor's name and can name at least 2 other things he's been in, but you probably don't and can't, and anyway, he'll always be Trevor of EastEnders. And Josh Hartnett. No, you don't remember him. And that's fine because the film barely does either. Statham stars as H, a truculent and taciturn new hire at a Los Angeles armoured truck company who makes an immediate impact after brutally, and with clinical efficiency, dispatching several would-be armed robbers who took one of his colleagues hostage, and despite barely scraping a pass in his training. It seems H is a man with a past, and a man looking for something. Or someone. That someone is a member of the crew that killed a number of people in the armoured truck heist that opens the film, including H's son. He's a bit pissed about that, and is soon shown to not have a great deal of restraint while tracking down any lead that could potentially identify his son's killer. Other leads exhausted, he takes a security guard job as he believes an insider at the company will lead him to his prey. I don't have much more to add to the plot of it. It's a man looking for someone. And Guy Ritchie is one of those unfortunates for whom the phrase damned if you do, damned if you don't must have particular resonance. After making his name with a couple of very distinctive and stylish films, he's forever struggled to break free from them, criticised for sticking to that genre, then pilloried when he strayed away from it. Even his more successful forays out of the box into which he has been penned, the Sherlock Holmes films in particular, have still had something of his feeling and style to them, whereas Aladdin, while competent, felt very much more like the work of a director for hire. And he may not have helped himself by having his post-Aladdin film, the extremely entertaining The Gentleman, be the most Guy Ritchie film in years, or possibly ever. Wrath of Man falls closer to Aladdin than anything else, being an entirely competent, if unremarkable film that doesn't exhibit much of the director's character. That character often comes in the form of a style and a swagger, which is in the film, thanks to Statham, but the film itself doesn't have it. It does have a strong, gritty aesthetic though, and the action scenes are pretty well handled, even if I doubt quite how little impact assault rifle bullets have on a man just because he's got some pads on, or how little space $160 million occupies. While its 2-hour running time doesn't feel at all egregious, it does feel like a tightening up, or certainly a rebalancing could work in the film's favour. We really don't need to see the fateful heist from the target crew's perspective, as we've gathered everything we need from the at least 3 other times we've seen it, or parts thereof. The FBI subplot, for want of a better word, could be dispensed with entirely, and while a lot of time is spent on H's failed efforts to find those responsible for his son's death, the encounter with the responsible party just sort of happens. He's found him, I guess. That's handy. And the titled chapter format absolutely zip. But I did still enjoy it. Come on, what's not to like about a badass Statham capping some fools? Though this is a Statham character, and likewise a Ritchie film, grittier, darker, and less funny than we're accustomed to seeing. That's neither good nor bad, just different, and fortunately everything in the film is generally solid. But alas for poor Eddie Marsan. There are a number of British actors in Wrath of Man doing American accents anywhere from good to excellent, and Eddie, well, he's not one of them, is he? Entirely acceptable out of 10.
Yeah, I certainly didn't hate Wrath of Man. It was an easy enough thing to watch, particularly as someone with a kind of already established affection for, thrillers and action kind of movies, and kind of a decent kind of gritty melding of the two. But yeah, I guess I was expecting something a bit more Ritchie, as you kind of alluded to there. Between the excellent trailer and just Jason Statham doing his usual kind of badassery, I was expecting it to be a bit more fun. and this very much isn't. It delivers a tone that I was not prepared for, and it's not necessarily a bad thing, but it was not the thing that I was expecting going into it, and that did kind of colour it for me, I'm afraid. That's entirely my fault, I think. However, there's a lot of things in Wrath of Man that if I was talking about, I'd really be talking about the things I don't like, that I don't want to get too hung up on. I feel that its tone is... There's worse offenders that we'll get to in this episode, but it's a little bit too serious at the same time as having things that are just a bit too silly happening in it that I can't really forgive. Like Josh Hartnett's entire role just feels like it's coming in from a different film, and the ending where Statham miraculously just shows up at a hideout is woefully underserved. That is something that needed a lot more explanation than it actually got.
Yeah,
if I'm going to let away with it.
The film goes into excruciating detail about all the
Yes.
leads that were wrong, and the right one, he just turns up. Oh, well, good for him, I guess. But how?
Yes, congratulations, you've ended the film, but it's exceedingly not satisfying as an ending.
Yep.
And that's maybe what annoyed me more than anything else. It left me with quite a sour note to go out on, particularly given the amount of punishment he'd dealt before that, for him to just suddenly appear like as though he's teleported in from outside of the frame. By no means... entirely uncommon criticism for this kind of thing, but still it felt like it was not earning that particular ending. Ultimately, I agree, it was enjoyable enough. I enjoyed the 2 hours or so I spent with it. It could certainly have been been tightened in. It's an acceptable enough piece of entertainment, and I'll take that for what it is, but I was kind of hoping for something a bit better, a bit more special, particularly given how good The Gentleman was. Watched that again fairly recently. It is an absolute barnstormer of a film, and this one's just competent, and that's fine. You can't knock them out of the park every time. This is just a decent enough effort, but yeah, I was hoping for more, I have to admit. It's solid enough 3 out of 5 kind of style of film. It certainly wouldn't dissuade anyone from seeing it, unless you're particularly not on board with this kind of genre stuff. But yeah, it's just not brilliant.
Yeah, and I didn't have expectations because I hadn't seen a trailer, and all I knew about it was a Guy Ritchie film, Jason Statham. Like, well, I'll be watching that then. But yeah, I suppose I had some expectation in that I was expecting a Guy Ritchie film, which is a thing.
Yes.
He's
a thing I really like, which is why I was looking forward to it. So yeah.
Yeah. As I said, like the Sherlock Holmes films, they're very different from something like Lock, Stock and Two Smoking Barrels, but they do feel like Guy Ritchie films.
Yeah, they have a similar tone to it, yeah.
Yeah, whereas his missteps have generally been the ones that felt less like that.
Yeah.
I've still never seen Swept Away, but like The Man from U.N.C.L.E., it's pretty dull. And some of Guy Ritchie's films are really funny, and in that film, the comedy just fell flat.
Yeah.
In this one, there is no comedy at all. I did see a line in a review on Roger Ebert. I forget who reviewed it there, but described Jason Statham's character as being a man who tried smiling 4 times in the 90s and decided it wasn't for him.
Yeah.
Which is spot on, but it's and there's almost a bit of like your more typical Statham there. That like it's a couple of lines that are almost kind of pithy one-liners.
Yeah.
And I don't know if they feel like that just because they're coming out of Jason Statham's mouth, or whether they would be like that in still have that feel in another film, but they aren't. It's so straight. And again, it's fine. It's a solid film, but I don't think I'm ever going to watch it again.
Yeah, I don't think there's much to be gained from rewatching it either, though.
Yeah, my biggest problem is the structural stuff. It's Josh Hartnett's character is, I assume, there to remind people that Josh Hartnett's alive, which came as a surprise to me. But no.
I presume that was intended as the comic relief, because I think all the sort of Statham-esque kind of moments that you were talking about just there do tend to happen in response to what he was saying from memory, but it just feels like it's not in the same film as all the rest of it. It feels like the scenes that should have been cut out rather than the ones that have been left in.
No, I actually felt that his character was in there as a red herring, especially because what that character's name is a name that comes up later on when you're overhearing the crew's radio chat about their inside man. I thought, oh, right. But it's not. So
Yeah.
it's again like, this character's such an idiot. Like, clearly he's a bad guy. It's like, oh, no, he wasn't. Oh, okay. And it's such a small role that I hope not smart for anybody, but it's such a small role that you'd have been really angry had that actually been the case, I think. Probably better to not have that worry.
That is perhaps another problem with the film. It does have too many people in it. It could definitely do with losing an awful lot of them. I know that might perhaps make it a little bit more obvious who the inside man actually was, but come on, you're not. This isn't really an Agatha Christie thing.
No,
we're not all that interested in the exact identity of the whodunit is to the point where we need another, at least 3 or 4 other characters, because there's a few other characters that are kind of acting a bit dodgy that could have been the inside man, but no one really cares that much about it. So between that and the showing of the actual bad guys, which is another group of 5, 6 people that get quite a lot of screen time as well, there's just not enough screen time to be divided amongst all these people if you want people to care about any of them.
No,
so,
it's like
a bit of a trouble.
Like Scott Eastwood. He's kind of got one of those faces you want to punch.
Yes.
And also looks slightly like Sam Worthington. The two of those may not be unrelated. No, but so like he's kind of a recognisable face in the crew, and everybody else is sort of anonymous apart from the Scottish guy who's actually one of the people doing the good American accent, who looks like Nick Frost but isn't.
Yeah.
And then you've got a whole bunch of people working in the office, and there's so many. It kind of goes against conservation of characters in some cases, actually, because there are so many extraneous characters. Like Rob Delaney turns up as the boss.
Yeah. And I like Rob Delaney, but he's got no purpose in this film at all.
I don't like Rob Delaney, but in this, I had no particular opinion of him on that. He's the boss of the company. An insurance swindle. Is he the bad guy? That's possible. Is that why he's in there? Because he has no other purpose in this film at all. No, I don't know. Yeah, so the bad crew's kind of anonymous. H's crew is largely anonymous. There's that guy, somebody De Silva, I forget his first name, Daniel David De Silva maybe, who sort of looks like Mel Gibson. You see Mel Gibson with his full beard.
Right, yeah.
That kind of looked I could pick him out because you see him a bit. Then the rest of his crew, they are people with faces.
Yeah. But this is very much why I didn't want to talk all that much about Other Man, because it's a film that ultimately I didn't mind watching, but I think the more you think about it, the more it kind of falls apart, and the more you analyse it, the more the kind of problems become apparent. And this is perhaps one of these times where it's best just to simply not think about it and watch it in the background on a Sunday afternoon.
It's fine. I did enjoy it. It's just that the structure's kind of weird. It's got these 4 sort of sections with titles, like completely unnecessary. They spend too long in one with them. Going back trying to get leads about who these people are, and then say it needs a rebalancing because there's nothing at the end. He just turns up, teleports in.
Yes.
I guess. So it's kind of disappointed in it. It doesn't have any sort of kind of Guy Ritchie feel about it. It's just it's a really solid film, and that's it.